everyone. This is Dean for Paranormal Pickers. Just getting ready for our next Paranormal Picker adventure. Come on, join me.
Dean, I know that you did a little traveling down to my neck of the woods yesterday as I was doing some traveling to the airport. What'd you see? What'd you do?
I did. It was actually pretty cool. I went to Elmhurst Cemetery, or Elmhurst.
I think you mean Elmwood.
I'm in high motion here. Or I can't even think. I can't even speak.
Slow motion, high motion, low motion. What do you got there? Coors?
Liquid encouragement. So yeah, I would know. Went down to meet Amber and Sycamore, and I said, "Hey, meet us at the Elmwood Cemetery. You know, the pavilion where we were standing when we did our paranormal streakers thing." So I met there with her, and I was out there for about an hour and 50 minutes. And she came in during that time, but I was able to do some investigating. I used a compass, used a UV light, I used a little angel. And as soon as I said, and I didn't have the video on, but I said, can you come towards the blue light? And my flashlight flickered. And this is where you pop the button. It goes, so I don't know why it flickered, but it did when I said, come by the blue light.
Was the flashlight blue?
Yeah, it's a UV flashlight.
Okay. I want to make sure I was picking up what you were putting down there. I've actually got some family that is buried in that cemetery. I can't seem to figure out the layout to find them, and it's relatively large, so it takes a little walking to get back and forth. But
yeah, and Lizzie's buried there from
the lab.
The lab.
Nice cemetery.
Yeah, the gates are on the National Historical Register. The actual gates to the cemetery are.
Gates to hell.
I don't know about that.
I figure those would be on the National Historical Registry too. Like, you know,
if your family is there, it could be.
Nah.
Hey, tip your bartender.
This guy, I tell you, I get no respect. Tough crowd.
Are we even live now?
We're live. Yeah, we're live for sure.
It on the Facebook thing here.
Yeah, little pre-work, technical difficulties, or
you know. I just want to get the video up on my phone so I could see comments.
Questions, comments. Willie says he can see and hear us, so I would say we are live.
There you go.
Hi, as well.
We are waiting on a special guest. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, while we wait on the guest. What'd you think of that pizza joint yesterday? Did you actually try the pizza?
Nope.
Well, what'd you try?
I had the rib dinner, which was good. Just ribs, fries, nothing big. But then I bought some chicken wings for leftovers, which that's what I had before jumping in here.
Nice. That's hence the toothpick, getting the remnants of the chicken out of the teeth. I do see we have our guest with us here.
I can add him.
All right.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
all right, Vince. How are you?
I'm all right.
All right.
Yeah, sorry it took me a minute to get there. It was I had a technical issue there for a second, but I'm back.
We're used to that.
Yeah, it's our whole show is a technical issue, but that's all right. We shall proceed and get through. No problem at all.
Long time no see, Vince. It's been a while.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to be back or see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 2009 was the first time, and then you came back for the Chicago conference.
Yep.
And you did the pendulum trick, and I think I still have that cross somewhere that you handed out to everyone. So.
Oh, fantastic! Wow.
Yeah. It's cool. You put on a nice show. I like what you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
And a couple people we have on. I know you know Willie Atkins. He's on watching, and
Oh,
Ron
yeah, hey,
Lovett.
Willie.
Yep,
And then he said Ron Lovett was the other gentleman that was on.
that's what I see. Yep.
All right, and we'll see some folks trickle in as we come through. I'm going to do my standard welcome, so to get this kicked off here for everybody. So hello again and welcome to another exciting episode of our Paranormal Pickers. Season 2, Episode 1, aptly titled The Magician. With me, as always, the Houdini to my Banachek, the rabbit to my hat. You may know him as Magic Mike on the mic, the one and only Dean Thompson.
Mike on the mic. Really?
Magic Mike on the mic, buddy. I've seen you do some dances on that microphone with your, never mind, the words
God.
come out. Joining us today, we've got the paranormalist magician, a man of mystery and wonder, Mr. Vince Wilson.
Woohoo!
Vince, welcome.
Ooh, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I know you probably are a man that really needs no introduction, but if you don't mind, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, what you got going on, and where folks can find you.
Yeah, I've been into the mysterious most of my entire life, ever since I was a little kid. And to be perfectly honest with you, although I definitely had an interest in it, I didn't have any spooky experiences when I was a kid. So I'm not one of those cliched, like I saw ghosts when I was 10, and ever since then, I believe. I just was a huge nerd and liked all those movies like Ghostbusters and In Search Of. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I remember shows like that.
Oh yeah.
With Leonard Nimoy and Ripley's Believe It or Not with Jack Palance and so on and so forth. And it was in 1998 that I actually went on my first ghost hunt. And at that point I was into Magick and true crime.
Yeah.
Thing was become, true crime has always been around. It's a myth that it's a like a new occurrence, but it cycles.
They brand.
And yeah, so I was very into mysteries and things along those lines. And after the first ghost hunt, and having already started doing seances and getting into magic illusions and things like that, and it's all connected in a way. I mean, there's a whole history of how these things interconnect. It's very fascinating. And
during that time too, there was another show called Faces of Death. Did you get into that one as well? Did you ever watch the Faces of Death?
Faces of Death, yes. Like everyone saw that in the 80s and 90s, I think. But yeah,
that was about the same time. So
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so it's just like after that, just sort of took off. I kept up with the all these different things. Got into psychic entertainment. Studied magical thinking and everything along those lines. From that point on. I still read. This is a backdrop right here, or is it? But behind that is look. See, it's a real bookshelf. See?
Oh, look at that! If I pull a real skull out from behind me, it's
yeah. But behind this is my actual library, which has almost 1,000 books in it. And half of those are based on the paranormal, the supernatural, history, science, magic, and that sort of thing as well. It just this just looks nicer,
Sure.
It just those are just regular bookshelves behind there, but yeah.
So, speaking of that too, knowing that you had the magic background and then the paranormal background, just a question on my end to kick things off. If you recall. Maybe not necessarily the first, but the first time that stands out to you, where was the first time or place that you coupled magic together with paranormal investigating, and what did you do with it?
Well, it never overlaps if I'm investigating, there's no magic there.
Sure.
But I do incorporate magic into my paranormal into my magic shows.
Okay.
So if I'm investigating, it's as straight as it can be. It's also good to have that knowledge. If you're a little skeptical, all right, being aware of illusions and magic gives you an insight in being faked or frauded.
Mhm.
Sure.
You know, like I've certainly been invited to places in which their entire intention was to get on a TV show more than it was to, um, find out if ghosts and psychic phenomenon are real. There's certainly people out there who are trying to convince you that they're psychic, and they're actually using a mentalism technique known as cold reading.
Hmm.
And there's
Yep.
people that are, they're not interested in sharing information
Mhm.
or doing actual scientific research into the paranormal. They're interested in, like, how can I get on to, get my own sci-fi channel show, for example.
Chasing the fame. Yeah.
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 And code reading, man, you got to be on your wits. You got to ask those questions and then process of eliminating to get to the answer. And your
Yeah.
answer is pretty much like, oh, wow, this guy knows something,
Yes, exactly. Well, it's like they're also called, there's a thing called Barnum phrases, for example,
Okay.
which a lot of fake psychics and mediums have used. And that is something along the lines of, people have taken advantage of you in the past. You're a good person, and they've taken advantage of that good-hearted nature of yours. However, you're always striving to be a better person by learning and doing more things. Now, these are nice platitudes, and no one thinks of themselves as a bad guy. So by saying things along those lines, you can manipulate a person to believe it's, that you're actually psychic or a medium, and I'm not saying there aren't such things, except, but there's certainly enough examples that there suggests that you have to be wary of, frauds and fakes and things along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to work in the credit card industry in the fraud department, and all those scams and all those people tricking the elderly and sending them money, and even people, you've heard everything like, oh, I'm going to come marry you. I got a kid. Look at my, the fraud is out there, and it's constant, and it's the same point. They ask those questions, or they talk so much that you kind of rely on them as a friend. And it's just hard to separate because they're built that hardcore trust in that individual, and when another family member sees what's going on, it's hard to rip that trust apart. You literally have to do tough love on them, so it's powerful, to say the least.
Oh yeah. It would just remind me of Catfish, the show on MTV. Like, how many people can fraud in with that? Now, correct me if I'm wrong here too.
You're wrong.
But I think, all right, fair enough. And that's a wrap. No. So
That's only because I know you, Nick. That's
I do believe, though, that Houdini, did a lot of that. He was so against mediums and
true.
everything that went along with it, seances and stuff, that he, made a career out of trying to debunk everything that went along with mediumship and things of that nature.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. So to be clear, if Houdini would not be your friend, I don't think he had any friends. He was a bit of a jerk, and and he started off ironically as a fake medium. He worked the sideshow circus crowds and that sort of thing, and he played the part of a spiritualistic medium with his then girlfriend, later wife Bess. Okay. This went, but later in his career, when he was starting to get a little older, in his 40s, and it was getting harder to maintain the level of physical height that you need to be an escape artist, he looked at the opportunity of exposing mediums and psychics. And this got its kickstart. He was always a little skeptical because of his knowledge of magic. But this really got its kickstart off with an interaction with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his wife.
I was just going to mention, Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly. Yeah. So Doyle was a firm believer in spiritualism, and invited Houdini over his this place he was renting in New Jersey, and to do a session of channeling where Madame Doyle would go into a trance and do automatic writing, and she would write down messages from Houdini's recently departed mother, who he had a very strong connection with, to almost a creepy level, to be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, and at the end of the session, she wrote a cross at the top, and then like filled like 5 or 6 pages up with this
Automatic
message
writing
from Houdini's mom, right? And it was all written in English. And Houdini had, although there's multiple problems with this, and to be perfectly honest, he just said like what sounded like innocent enough things, like, Harry, don't worry, I'm up here with your father. There's like nothing to worry about. Hope you're doing a wonderful job. I'm so proud of you, et cetera, et cetera. Houdini had one question. He said, my mother was from Hungary. She barely spoke English. Why is the whole thing in English? And without missing a beat, Madame Doyle said, why, Harry, in heaven, everyone speaks English. The other problem was, of course, there was a crucifix at the top of it. And Harry Houdini was actually born Eric Weiss, he was a Hungarian Jew, and he would not have, so why was his father, who was a rabbi, and his mother, who was Jewish, why would they have a crucifix? Sure. On top of it. Why would it all be in English? Why would she call him Harry when his real name is Eric? She never called him Harry. So there's like all these issues were there. So they had a falling out. And from that point on, Houdini, combined with the opportunistic aspect of his personality, doubled down on anti-spiritualism and skepticism, and became an exposure of magical secrets. And there's a very popular poster as are ghosts real? Houdini says no, for example. And So.
Well, I did hear they use a translation line on the other side, so maybe that's how they got.
Right, it was the precursor to Google Translate.
Even before, what was it? Other one, Dragon?
They just used the blackboard.
Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, practicing magic since you were 12, that's awesome. And then then later on, you started hypnotizing people.
Yep, I learned hypnosis in school, and from a college professor, and it was a couple of classes. It wasn't like a big thing, but I stuck with it. I practiced, read everything I could on the topic. I became a member of the National Guild of Hypnotists, where I got my certification to do consulting hypnotism. I'm actually a therapist in Delaware.
And have you been hypnotized?
What's that? One time in school, yes, but not since then. But hypnosis is not a oogie boogie thing, or it's a state of mind, a state of consciousness in which you're just very you have a hyper state of realization, either hyper aware but usually what people are most familiar with is just like that relaxed state in which your conscious and subconscious mind is more intertwined, allowing you to be more open to suggestion. But it's not something that can be forced on someone. They're always in control during the time period. If I were to say, I am here, if you're here to like quit smoking, I said, go stand on your head in a corner, you'll snap out of it. Like, I'm not here for acrobatics. I'm here to quit smoking, for example. So the hypnosis is often, thanks to movies and TV shows, wrongly misinterpreted as some sort of mind control or things like that. I always tell people, there's in lectures and things like that, I'll say, there's something that influences us more than TV, the media, religion, your parents, school, and anything else. There's one thing that influences us more than that, and that is pop culture. Movies, TV shows, books, fiction, that sort of thing. It has a greater influence on us than any other source.
Sure.
The reason you think vampires are killed with sunlight is not because of some ancient tradition associated with the vampire legend, which is technically thousands of years old. Is because of 1921's Nosferatu. Werewolves were only killed by silver bullets as of 1940's Wolfman, Werewolves have been around for also thousands of years. So the people are scared of Ouija boards not because Parker Brothers has a coven of witches on the assembly line in their manufacturing plant, sprinkling bits of Stonehenge into the laminate paper on the cardboard with their plastic planchettes. Is because someone saw The Exorcist too many times, and then people say like, "Oh, I had an experience when I was a kid." Well, if you were in that space at that same time with pendulums or an EMF detector or a voice recorder, can you promise me the same thing wouldn't have happened? Was it the Ouija board? It was the intention of what you were experiencing? Right. They can't. There's no way to prove that because Ouija boards aren't inherently evil. They're not by themselves portals. They're like a EVP recording is spirit communication. What separates that from the Ouija board other than your idea in your brain that somehow this is a dark portal to hell? It wasn't kids in the 70s making a pentagram in blood with some black candles and heavy metal music playing in the background. It was because, that's right. Yeah, see, you weren't sucked into hell. You're still here.
And I still listen to Black Sabbath.
That's right. Yeah.
So is there a fine line then for, I'm going to try to throw it a little bit here, like lucid dreaming and hypnosis? Is that like a self type of?
Lucid dreaming is related in a way because you're conscious and unconscious at the same time. You're aware of the fact that you're in a dream.
Yeah.
If you want to know if you're in a dream or not, the easiest way is to look up words or clocks. If you're in a dream, you can't read. So someone made up a dream if they told you that I read this, there's this words in a paper or I was at, but you might know you're a 7-Eleven, but it won't say 7-Eleven. You might know you're in Walmart, but you'll never see Walmart written on a sign because you can't read in a dream. For some reason, some weird aspect of the human psychology, we can't read words or tell time in a dream. Like it'll look like gibberish. You might have an idea that this is supposed to be a word, but you can't read it. It'll be blurred out, gibberishy, and that sort of thing. It's a weird aspect of our subconscious, that prevents us to do it. So one way of like going into a lucid dreaming session is to try to read something or look at a clock because you'll be aware immediately that you're in a dream. Either that or you're hallucinating while awake. So stop taking those drugs, everyone.
And I want to pull Nick into this because you're a palm reader too?
I researched, like I said, I researched anything related to the mysterious, the psychic, magical thinking and things like that. So I've taught myself how to do palm reading, tarot reading. I do rune casting, among other things.
Well, the palm reading, is that a form of cold reading in a sense?
It can be. Yeah. So that's a good point. All right. So over the decades, centuries, however long palm reading has been around, there has been a concise sort of way of reading palms. So you could say there's probably a few people out there who do it differently and that sort of thing. But, it's basically here's the lifeline, here's the heart line, the headline, the fate line, the mounds of Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, et cetera, a girdle of Venus, that sort of thing. There's all these little places on the hand that have given meaning that's supposed to represent aspects of your psychology or your personality based on where it ends and lands and that sort of thing. So these are standard, so there's actually a standard for palm reading that most, but not all palm readers kind of go along with. Okay. So you don't have to make something up. You don't have to tell someone, something to make them feel good if you go with these sorts of rules. All right. So if your heart line ends up your index finger, that just means you're a physical lover. You like to hug and hold hands and that sort of thing because the standard says that. And you're not technically making it up, well, in a sense that you're going along with other people's interpretations
Yeah.
of these lines in the hand. That is based on a tradition going back a long time.
Yeah,
But
I
you're
won't.
not-
I won't
you're
let
also
Nick read
not
my
doing-
palm.
Okay.
I won't let Nick read my palm.
Yeah, but yeah, there's an argument to be made that it can be in a way, like a cold reading, because but the people who really believe and practice that, they really feel like they're helping people with like have a better understanding of themselves. And as long as they're not doing what I call the upsell, which is like, you need to buy this crystal to remove the dark cloud. As long as you don't do something like that,
Right.
I think you're just doing something that's fun, a little therapeutic, and harmless. It's just like people, and if there's enough people around doing it that way, then there's no harm done. It's like better that someone with pure intentions is doing it, as opposed to someone who's legitimately trying to get to buy like crystals to remove the dark cloud over you and that sort of thing. If they're even saying like you have a dark cloud over you, that's fine, as long as that information is not followed up with, for $100 you can buy this river rock that is not from Michael's Arts and Crafts that I put
Right.
in black. It is actually
Last one in stock too. Just so happens. Right.
Not from that bucket over there you see in the corner.
I think, Nick, with your opening line, you said, I'm easily to fall in love with.
Yeah, people will fall in love with me quite easily. Well, to Dean's point too, and even to yours, Vince, like, yes, there can, in my opinion, there can be some cold reading put into it. But you were elaborating already. There's just so much that's already gone into it over the years that people have expressed. No different than, say, astrology or anything else, because it does couple a lot of astrology in it. And what I always like to tell people is, like, let's say a guy swings a hammer all day, every day, and another guy types on a keyboard. He's using his hands to do that, and the muscles and the memory and everything is going to be expressed in his hand. So it's not like I can't already see in somebody's hand whether they're a construction worker or an office worker, because their hands are already going to show that anyway. So I'm not expressing anything that I couldn't have picked up on, regardless of the lines in your hands.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I used to, it's funny you mentioned the upsell, because they used to always, where I worked at the shop, everybody else would always try to get the repeat business and bring them back. I would just tell them, hey, if you want to do something to change something, tie a string to a certain finger, or do certain exercises to build different mounds. And that way it doesn't cost them a dime. It just allows them to build up the mounds.
We give you want fries with that, a pass.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I wouldn't be needing that. But interesting to know that you've taken a lot of time to learn all these things. How did you, if you don't mind my asking, with the palm reading specifically, how did you come to really learn that? Was it just reading books? Was it practice?
Reading books, seeing other people do it, and that sort of thing. There's a lot of history behind that. There's a lot of tradition associated with it. One of my favorite things is also tarot cards, of course, like the major arcana. Are you there you go. Are you familiar with the Fool's Journey?
Yeah. So our last episode last week was on the Fool and about the Fool and the Fool's Journey.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so you are familiar with it. The Fool's Journey is the major arcana. Card number 0, the Fool, is going on an adventure. He's exploring life. He's on a process. The major arcana ends on card number 21, because there's 22 cards in the average major arcana and most tarot decks. The World is talking about completion, finding peace and peace of mind, and using the wisdom. The Magician, which you just held up a moment ago, is about acquiring knowledge and using that for practical purposes, like a magician does. I have gained this knowledge and wisdom, and I'm using it for the benefit to better my life. The magician usually being card number 1 in a tarot deck.
It's interesting too, and with that same, so tying in tarot, because that's what our whole episodes are this entire season, and the magician just happens to be what the this episode is.
And this is the deck that I referred to as the Robin Wood Tarot.
Interestingly enough, the magician on the front. But what are your thoughts on that? You know, if we're talking about tarot and the meaning of the cards and everything, some people will say that the magician, you know, is a gifted healer, even though not ordained like the other some of the other cards, and thought to be in league with the card of the devil because of what knowledge they have. You know, what are your thoughts on that? You think that, you know, where would that come from, and why?
Oh, the connection to it being in league with the devil.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting. A lot of motivations of certain sects, of certain religions and faiths are not for the benefit of the flock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be perfectly honest with you, you know, the vast majority of people who go on my ghost tours, who go and see my lectures and that sort of thing, are Christians, for example.
Sure.
I would say 95% of them are Christians. That's right. And there's a percentages of atheists and other, people of different faiths, pagans. You know, they're, you know, any kind of religion, Muslims, Jewish people, that sort of thing. All kinds of different faiths attend paranormal stuff, you know, conferences and ghost tours and ghost hunts and lectures and magic shows and things along those lines. But there's always going to be a tiny percentage of people that are just a-holes, you know. Pardon my language, you know.
No, feel free, speak freely.
Say, you know, and they want, it's about imposing their will on others. If it's an individual with like a pastor or something like that, it's about ego and control, and not about their love of God and their hate of sin. It's about control, you know, based on the ego. They're imposing their will on others. You know, I always used
selfish
to say,
gain.
What's that?
For selfish gain.
Exactly. There are three types of people that are interested in the paranormal: the good, the bad, and the sad. All right. The good is someone, I'm genuinely fascinated by this. I want to know, is this real? Is there any truth to this? That's a good. All right. It's good. Okay. That's a good person who's into the paranormal. The bad, I want a TV show. Right. I want to be famous. I want to be the star of the next conference and that sort of thing. I don't believe there should be responsibility for anything I do. I'm getting canceled, not because I'm a jerk, but because people don't respect me enough or understand what I'm saying. Whatever. You know. And the third is the sad. These are people that the sad people can become one of the other two. All right, because they're just into it looking for validation and purpose. So it doesn't mean they're necessarily bad people. They're just kind of lost and trying to find their way. All right. I used to be more critical of the sad, but a lot of sad ones have managed to become pretty good people, you know, with a positive influence. But they've also fallen into the bad category sometimes as well, you know, because they're, you know, it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Are you familiar with that term?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dunning-Kruger is the idea that those who are least qualified think they're the most qualified. Because they just don't have the critical thought necessary to understand that they're bad at what they're doing. Okay, so there's lots of people out there who are like that. I mean, this is the basis of most conspiracy theories. I am so brilliant that only I and the people I associate with in my closed little circle are smart enough to know the truth. You sheeple out there, don't you understand that?
You sheeple?
There's an Illuminati, you know, out there ruling the world, and these things are only done blah blah blah. The problem with conspiracy theories is too many people have to know and keep their mouth shut. And as someone once said, the only way to keep a secret is between three people and two of them are dead. You know, It's
Even nowadays, that's not even possible too, because you got mediums who come out and be like, "Hey, I know the
You're
secret."
going to see comments from people saying, "No, that's not true. They threaten their lives. They threaten their families." That has never mattered in the past. People have had their lives threatened. They've had their families threatened. And if it crosses a line in their personal ethics and morality, they will be a whistleblower. They'll go out and say something. So if there's never been a person who's come forward and said, "I was there. I watched Stanley Kubrick, in the studio in the moon landing footage," that's never happened. So the easiest conclusion, according to Occam's razor, is that we did go to the moon, and it wasn't faked. It was easier in the 1960s to go to the moon than fake it. To be perfectly honest with you,
Yeah, probably still is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a CGI can do it now, but they didn't have that back then. So and even that you can always tell when something's CGI usually.
I will look at the
mentality. It's the mind thought behind that kind of allows that sort of belief to go on with that certain specific percentage of people.
Sheeple. I like your term, sheeple.
Sheeple. That's right. You never heard that before? It's like that's a popular term with the conspiracy theorists. That is the idea that allows people to believe that they can impose their will on others, and that magic is the work of Satan. Don't you see it? The devil influencing all these people. It's because of the devil. I mean, you ever heard of the evolution of ideas? All right. So things change over time, beliefs and that sort of thing. 3,000 years ago, what we call demons today were angels. They were winged creatures with lion faces and talons for feet and that sort of thing. And in the early part of Christianity, when the idea of Lucifer, the devil, was being developed, Lucifer, Satan specifically, although these are often portrayed as different characters and some ideas and that sort of thing, some concepts, he was a guy doing his job. He was an angel that did his job. We need someone to take care of hell, right? We got to get these sinners, and the devil did that over a period of time. Mostly Catholicism, Catholics, which I'm a recovering one, to be honest with you.
Like a recovering, right?
Yeah, changed the concept of the devil from a angel whose job was to take care of sinners to a antithesis to an all-powerful being. I mean, realistically, if he's truly omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, these three factors, that he would just be able to go, "Oh, devil? I don't think so," and that would be it. Like, so why would this even be an enemy? This is not a valid argument, But that's just, of course, that's, once again, I probably get negative comments for that, like, "Oh, blah blah blah." But anyway,
no, but you make perfect sense what you're saying too, and you see it again. I think a lot of Hollywood or pop culture influence in that too. I mean, people take a look.
People's interpretation of the devil and hell comes from Milton's Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno from the Divine Comedy, more than it's actually from anything written in the Bible. There isn't a lot on that character or hell or anything in the Bible. It's usually non-canon apocryphal texts that reference the Satan, Lucifer, the devil, Beelzebub, whatever you call it. It's that these are usually separate demons, but somehow over the centuries have been consolidated into one being. So
yeah. So how many times did you spit out your drink watching the supernatural shows?
That's just a fun show.
That is a fun show.
You just got to ignore that. But there's people out there who do ghost hunting and paranormal investigating, where their entire knowledge of how to do that comes from TV shows, not from books they've read, not from the research and studying they've done.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question on the paranormal topic. Have you ever heard that there's no experts in the paranormal?
The phrase, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yep. Why?
Well, because there's no real school of learning, right? In order to be an expert or certificate, this is just my opinion again, there's no real school of learning that can credential somebody as an expert.
Parapsychology.
Sure, parapsychology, but again, at the same token, that's the main reason I would go with there's no experts.
Okay, that makes sense. That's actually one of the smarter explanations for that phrase. Okay, so thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Dean, your opinion?
That was well thought out. I don't care what he says about you. That's all right.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto, says Dean.
Yeah.
But back to your magic. I mean, you actually, I found you on a Magickpedia page. You have your own Magick media page.
That's right. Genie magazine. Yeah, it has.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. The issue is that if you go to a paranormal conference, they're going to say there's no experts in it, and their explanation is going to be not quite as well thought out as yours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it is going to be there's no experts because we don't know. There's no explanation, but that's not actually not the reason. Is I mean that's what they think it is because that's what they've been told. That's what they just heard over and over again over years of going to these events and books they might have read, but probably more because of the TV shows. The reason there's no experts is not because there can't be, because they don't want there to be. If there were experts, there would be accountability.
Right.
All right. Now, accountability doesn't mean that you have to say this is definitively what a ghost is or a demon or whatever. It just means that just means that the procedures should be like more consistent, or there should be information that is collected can be filed properly, and that sort of thing. So maybe we can find a consensus later. I mean, parapsychologists have been collecting data on these things for decades, for almost 150 years. All right. So there are aspects of the paranormal and the supernatural and ghosts and hauntings and psychic phenomena that show patterns, and things that seem kind of obvious when you look at these patterns and things like that. And yet most ghost hunters and so-called paranormal investigators don't know about these things. I think 99%, maybe with a decimal point going into that places, of all the paranormal investigators and ghost hunters out there should never, ever, ever be allowed in a person's home. Go ghost hunt at Eastern State Penitentiary. Go to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, all you want to. Go into any battlefield, haunted place, and be respectful of the location and investigate to your heart's content.
Mm-hmm.
Take all the equipment you want in those places with permission, but you should never be allowed in someone's home. There should be laws and ordinances in place to prevent people that are unlicensed or uncertified ghost hunters going into someone's house. And that goes for all of your viewers. You should be rethinking your decisions.
Right. Well, you got me thinking about Peter Venkman now going into someone's home. It's
why did you have so many cc's of a cortisone in his pocket to give it up? It's just by coincidence. He just was able to inject that into her. Why does he bring that on his date night? Anyway.
Right.
But anyway, the thing is, the reason I say that is because there are families and children and wives and husbands and couples and et cetera, all these factors, real people are being affected by amateurs who have no background in therapy and helping people work through issues. They're just telling them there's demons and ghosts and everything else, and they're doing it because, for whatever reason, they think they should be allowed to do it.
Just a standard thrill seeker. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a family. That's a home to somebody.
Okay, to that point, with going into a haunted house and having a family coming out and getting a tarot card reading, what's the difference? You're doing the same thing.
Well, we covered that already.
Yeah,
we covered that
because
already.
He's not upselling anybody as long as you're.
Yeah, they interpret the outcome themselves.
But you can still see them face to face. You can still have a conversation.
This is what you have. Lives have been ruined because in the past where demonologists have told people that their house has the devil in the basement, and they've sold their homes without a plan for how to, take care of their finances. This has happened. We know this has happened in the past. They're terrifying people. This is different than saying, live a better life, be your best you after a tarot reading, and then telling, as opposed to saying,
sell everything and move out
you
now.
have demons and monsters and evil spirits in your basement.
Well, Nick, tell Vince the story about Ruth and your child.
Oh, so when we were, I think I know which one you're referring to. So we were at our lab, and Dean had brought in Ruth, who is, I'm going to call her a medium, psychic medium, clairvoyant, clairaudient, whatever you want to, Claire, anything. Her name's not Claire. I'll say that. But at any rate, she was going through and doing her thing, and I hadn't mentioned anything to the guys that evening or previously about what was going on. But Ruth had come up to me at some point throughout the evening, and she said, "Hey, I just want you to know that Avery's here," right? And it floored me for a second, because my wife was pregnant, and just about 2 days prior to that, we had decided that we were going to name our son Avery. And like I said, I didn't mention that to anybody. And she said, "Yeah, he's here." And
you're going to meet him.
Yeah. And my face just, I wish I could have seen it, because I'm sure I just turned, white as the
no, your head
behind me.
Your head hit the table. Like, what?
Yeah. So it was just one of those things, like, you never know who is going to possess that knowledge, or who's going to have the actual gift versus anything else.
Well, some sort of oversight authority, or which never has happened in all of these years. There's all sorts of people have tried doing coalitions and united coalition of paranormal whatever, and that sort of thing, and they've always failed. The reason is ego every single time.
Oh yeah.
Is because, no, I don't want to go to someone else. I want to be the person in charge. Or who are they to tell me to have standards and morals and ethics?
Right.
It's weird that one of the craziest bunch of people out there, the UFO people, have an organization called MUFON. So look at it this way. If you're a media, if you're a major news organization, and then a UFO sighting occurs, you have in your speed dial MUFON. They just know to call someone at MUFON. There is no similar organization for ghosts and hauntings. No one calls parapsychologists anymore. They don't even know they're still around.
Right.
There's the Parapsychology Foundation, the Parapsychological Association, the American Society for Paranormal Research, and the American Institute of Parapsychology. All these organizations still exist, and they all have dozens of parapsychologists. Most of them just satisfied doing their own independent research, writing papers, going to the big international parapsychology conferences, which I'm sure most people have never even heard of, because they're embarrassed by for the most part, the paranormal organizations out there. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have an opinion question then, and we don't have to name names. We can if we want to, and we want to cross that bridge. But there's a ton of shows that are on TV, right? I mean, it's going to pique everybody's interest.
Oh, I've been on a few of those.
Oh, so is Mark and a couple other guys too. But out of all of the ones on the show, and we can just use your percentage again, do you feel that any of those that have the notoriety, or any of those that are on TV, do they belong there? Should they be allowed to be on there? Do you feel if any of them? Let's start there.
Some of them are really bad, but most of them have the right to be on there as entertainment.
Sure.
And a lot of the people that are on those shows will even tell you, if I was really investigating, this is not how I would do it. This is for the network. We had to get ratings.
Yeah, of course.
Get my paycheck. And if we just did this, if they legitimately did it as a real paranormal investigation, the way parapsychologists do it, it would be the most boring show on television. It would be like C-SPAN, in entertainment value. So I like the talking head shows, like the shows in which they say this is a story we're telling, and they do reenactments. They have experts come in, talk about. There's nothing wrong with that. You go on there, you say, well, this story, and this is the hypothesis about what probably happened or what might have happened. Those are fine. When I accept a show like that, that's what I'm coming from. They bring me in as a talking head, recounting an experience I had, or what my opinion is on what might be happening on. When I did the Holzer Files in 2019, I love that show. When I did PBS a couple of months ago, that's still to be aired. It'll be aired in August or September for a show called Wild Travels, in which I talked about haunted Baltimore. That's what I did. I just told the stories that have been recounted to me, my experiences in some of these places, and that sort of thing. Those sorts of shows and spots are fine because there's no ethical aspect of like, do I need to fake things to be here?
Yeah.
So. And
I did watch the, what was it? USS Constellation episode. And I want to get your impression when you first seen that live and your name came up and it's an amateur historian.
Yeah, that's fine. I gave them several different titles, and that was one of them.
Okay.
It had parapsychologist, it had paranormalist, it said amateur historian. That's the one they chose.
That's the one they picked. I was like, come on, man.
I'm only speculating because I have no proof of this. I just thought it would be, I think the reason they didn't choose the other two is because the show's not about me, it's about everyone else.
Right.
All right. So having a parapsychologist on there, like, why don't they see more of this guy? Or something along those lines. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. But I knew that I said, here's the 3 titles I suggest, because they asked for a couple, and that's what they put on there. So that's fine. I'm okay with that because I am an amateur historian in Baltimore, researching all these stories and things like that. And they had too many paranormal people on there anyway. So they didn't need another one jamming it up. So that was fine. I know Schrader, we're friends, we've known each other for years, so that's fine for as far as that's concerned. I'm sure that wasn't even something he was in charge of.
Right.
So that was the producer's decision, nothing to do with him on the Holzer file. So I had no problem with that. I was there for 5 hours on that ship
for that little wow.
And he used like 3 minutes of conversation. And I talked about way more about paranormal experiences. I talked about the history and stories. Some of the stuff they already knew, some of the stuff they learned, some of those things other people mentioned. So it didn't need to be redone again. Right. Or they wanted someone else to say it, so they took my information, let someone else say it, which is fine. I have no problem with that because I know how to work with television. Those sorts of things happen.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's okay.
And I watched you did an episode on one of your local news stations where you went like this behind the person where they thought they tapped on the shoulder.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I added that link into our into this video, promoting it. I thought that was cool.
Thank you. Yeah. There's only about that particular. I do a more advanced version of that with one person. Now the effect you saw on that show, if I'm not mistaken, which was it was 2 anchor women on the show, and it was a popular technique pioneered by a performer named Banachek, and there's although he didn't invent it, it was he's mostly known for perfecting it, I suppose.
Cool.
There's a more advanced technique I use for just one person. That's actually harder to do, which is funny enough.
Oh wow!
And there's only about a dozen people in the country doing it that way, So
and they learned. They were like, I was tapped, and you could see on the video that you didn't even touch her, didn't even come close. Blew her mind, dude. Well, let's go into those realms then, because you started the Poe's Magick Conference.
Yes, in
Gettysburg, right? Or Gettysburg.
The first one was in Gettysburg. Every other one since then has been in Baltimore, and it's a conference for magicians who focus in the type of magic I do, which is narratively structured theatrical magic, sometimes called bizarre magic, because it focuses a lot on ghost stories, the paranormal, psychic phenomenon, that sort of thing. Using it in a you know, there's a lot of power in storytelling and metaphor. You know, you tell a child the beware of strangers. They might have a basic understanding of that. They might get it a little bit, but you tell them Little Red Riding Hood, they remember that the rest of their lives. Okay. Metaphor storytelling. I mean, hypnosis for sessions like in which you're trying to help someone quit smoking. It's not just like saying don't smoke under hypnosis. A lot of scripts which hypnotists share with each other, which is like what they tell you under hypnosis, are based on metaphor. You know, I know a story about a guy whose house was poisoned. It was slowly poisoning him, just like cigarettes are poisoning you. Then metaphor ingrains itself into the human subconsciousness more than anything else. That's why pop culture has so much of an influence on us. These are powerful stories that affect us. The idea of spells and witchcraft and casting, all based on stories. The tarot card tells stories. Ghost stories are stories. You know, when you're even though you might be based on a true story and then or something that actually happened. When you recount that to someone, they're telling you a story. They want to have empathy for their situation,
Right.
You know, and they're telling it with a passion that only a story can make. You know, so magic is a way of portraying a lot of information in a fantastical way to people.
So let's talk about Gettysburg, or Gettysburg, if you're from that area.
Yeah.
And ITC. Do you use any ITC equipment like Ovilus? Are you familiar with the Ovilus 3?
Oh yeah, I've written about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it has a random number generator built into it,
Right.
And an electronic dictionary, correct? In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a story to tell you about the Ovilus 3. I want to
All right,
get
do you want me to tell you my criticism of it, or
Sure,
first,
yes.
you want to hear?
I want to hear the criticism first.
Absolutely.
Right. There's a huge flaw in any device that has a random number generator, which is fascinating and still psychic, but not ghosts. Okay, so here's the problem. Have you ever heard of the World Consciousness Project?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it shows the waves going all the time as the brain waves or consciousness waves. Yep.
Well, it involves a series of random number generators around the world, all right, that are in laboratories around the world. And what happens is that they monitor these RNGs and look for fluctuations in probability fields during world events. The largest fluctuation ever recorded, the last time I checked into it, happened during 9/11, for example. All right. Random number generators theoretically are influenced by human consciousness. All right. This is based on Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Okay. Observation affects reality. Okay. So you have in this device, the Ovilus, a random number generator that is theoretically influenced by consciousness, humans, right? And you have a bunch of people sitting around it really wanting something spooky to happen. Okay. All right. You see where this is going?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
All right. So it's not ghosts influencing it. They could be.
That could be the same for EVP and anything else too, basically.
Well, EVP possibly, but the voices would be more elaborate information being produced from nowhere, as opposed to an easily influenced random number generator, which is basically randomly cycling through electronic dictionary, you know, just like randomly, right? Theoretically. But if the World Consciousness Program shows anything, and the Heisenberg uncertainty principle definitely demonstrates that consciousness affects probability fields, then it's possible that this dictionary is being influenced by the desires and wants of those surrounding it, who all want something spooky and weird to happen, and the device produces that for them because that's what they want to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
So your consciousness is affecting the RNG inside, and you saying, I really want something weird to say, and it says, get out, or whatever
it says, right?
Things you're going to say, because that's what the investigators want. Now, that's fascinating from a parapsychological psychic research department, but not the motivation of most paranormal investigators who wanted to believe that it's the departed departed consciousness. A
Mhm.
consciousness has been separated from the physical body. This is what parapsychologists call consciousness survival.
Okay,
The
so let
idea
me
that
give you
aspects of once were can be survived death. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no problem. Let me give you my scenario from
Sure.
being an investigator out in the field. So I've had this thing for many years now, and it's happened to me twice, and it's only happened to me in Gettysburg. And basically, in dictionary mode, I'll read what I wrote because I sent the letter to Bill Chappell, who invented the device, I guess. In dictionary mode, the word odd appeared in grandpa.
Mhm.
However, when I went back to review the saved words, both of these words were gone, and in its place was wolf. So it replaced the word. Now, it didn't have any of us saying those questions. Those words didn't mean anything to what we were asking. It was just that when I went back, it was gone. And I asked him, I'm wondering if this has occurred before and how this would happen. Um, and I didn't tell him that it happened at the same place.
Hmm.
So his response back was, the word value is stored as spoken and held in a EEPROM. Having a word change would be next to impossible. There are some freak conditions that have been known to affect memory, gluons, quarks, AB particles, etc. But it would be extremely rare not repeating. Another thought is that EEPROM may be beginning to fail and the stored value is losing data bits being stored. However, again, it's only happened twice in Gettysburg, and any time that I bring it here or use it here, it acts as just like it always has.
Hmm.
He also says to install fresh batteries, which I had done, and it still did that. And the bar on it, there's a black bar that appears on the bottom, and in Gettysburg, it's always maxed out. Other places, it's just 10%, 20%, or something like that. He did say that, which is good information, I guess, is Duracell is the most cloned and faked battery out there. Just for future references, he recommends Energizer Lithium 8 times. So he says, to answer your question, I always lean toward the simple. Since it has repeated, I'll be more inclined to say memory or battery failure. But again, I didn't mention the fact that it happened in Gettysburg. And he goes, regards, Bill Chappell, just my opinion.
Well, I tell you the what I tell my clients when I do therapy is that it's okay to accept there's random things in the universe, and you don't have to have a purpose or put a face to things and stuff like that. Sometimes things don't have meaning. Sometimes there's no one to blame. It's okay to let the universe take responsibility for things. There's one I can't remember who said this, but it was something I remember forever, is that it's possible that 10 billion years ago, on the far end of the universe, a star exploded 10 billion light years away. Its particles traversed the immense, nearly infinite, gigantically unfathomable expanses of the universe, the cosmos. It traveled through all these enormous spaces, through galaxies and other solar systems and cosmic phenomenon. It managed to go through our solar system. It beat through the solar winds, went through our atmosphere, along with all of its brother and sister particles, and so on and so forth. And somehow this one particle gets through all this, hits you in the chest, and now you have cancer. All right? So, and we will never know if that has ever happened or could happen. And there's people who have cancer and terrible diseases, and they have no idea where it comes from. But that is a thing that could have happened already, and or happens every single day. We'll never know. And that's how crazy, stupid, random our universe is. And if you embrace that, you'd be a happier person, I think, because you'd be like, don't stress over blaming things. Never never blame malice, which can easily be explained with ignorance.
So true. Ignorance is bliss. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Sorry,
it's ghost. It's ghost. Diablo 3. It's haunted. I mean, is Gettysburg haunted?
I think Gettysburg is as haunted as any other city is or town. Here's the thing: is Gettysburg is not popular because it is the most haunted city in America. It is not popular because it has more ghosts than anywhere else. It is not popular because something about the geography makes it more haunted. Okay, it's popular because you can walk 2 blocks from the gift shop to the battlefields. All right, there's hotels and inns and B&Bs and nice historic reenactment restaurants and reenactors walking all over the place in costumes and things along those lines, and ghost tours out the wazoo. Okay, that is why it's popular. It's popular for those. I'm sorry, I know I'm like breaking all these like rules of, that sort of thing. But
oh no, you got to go. It's a beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was a blood-year battle, but it doesn't have a convenient gift shop or bathroom.
Right.
So it is. So it's usually not visited as much by paranormal investigators. If it had a couple of cash town inns there, and haunted orphanages and ghost tours, Antietam would be a much more popular battlefield to go to. It's amazing that the travel company, that the tourism board of Gettysburg, doesn't embrace the ghosts more often, because that's where the majority of their money comes from. People are going there for ghost tours and donating money to the historic battlefields, because they're already in town, and I want to see the battlefields because I might see a Civil War ghost. But they'll always deny that, forever, and be like real jerks to most ghost hunters.
Right, we're here for the historical aspect of it, not for the ghosts. Well, you just, you described pop culture in a city. That's the same reason why places like New Orleans are, happening, and
Yep. If you're in New Orleans, make sure you go to the Vampire Cafe. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Food there is delicious.
There you go.
I do love New Orleans.
I also know the owner.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
It's a good plug right there, fellas. Let's go to the Vampire Cafe in New Orleans. I think we have a New Orleans episode coming up here soon.
Hey, Nick, do you want to read off who's on watching there for Vince, so he knows?
Oh shoot, I see a couple different folks. I know that Laura Redmond's on here. I know, again, Willie was on here. Ron, I'm going to butcher Ron's last name. We got Liz Leon Mason.
She's from Paranormal Mothers, PMS.
PMS. That was Paranormal Mothers.
Charles Williams watching.
Is that who the other person was that said sorry they were late? Laura was supposed to call them?
No, that was Laura. Oh, no, that was Greg. Sorry, guys, I'm late too.
Oh, Greg Koss is on here too?
Yeah, Laura and Greg were late.
All right. Well, you for those of the watching back at home too, I mean, as always, we'll be available on YouTube later. Dean works his own magic and produces the shows for us and pops them up on YouTube, but with a little extra added content in the background as well. Let's see, there was something else I wanted to touch base on.
I know what I want to talk.
Go ahead, Dean. You go first. Well, I got.
You know what you want to touch? Okay, go ahead.
He's a palm reader, man. He's a palm.
All right, what do you want to touch, Dean?
He's got to be touching something. So your spirit sessions, I'm interested in. I know you do quite a few of that with the seances. True crime, that's probably the biggest thing out there. Jack the Ripper, Black Dahlia,
yeah.
Sherlock Holmes, Lizzie Borden. You do the historical stuff, the Titanic, Edgar Allan Poe, obviously.
Awesome.
Amelia Earhart is cool because I actually went to Atchison, Kansas, and went to her birthplace where she grew up with her grandparents. Awesome place. The Salem Witch Trials, obviously. And then you do like the Mothman, Krampus. Now I saw something on the clickbaits, the little clickbaits out there. And I don't know if you see this yet. And I was curious to see if this is a seance thing that you have done. But there was this 5-year-old boy who says that he is the reincarnation of Princess Diana.
I vaguely remember hearing about it.
Did you?
I think I skipped over it, but yeah,
Ah.
I remember seeing it. It did come up on my feed.
So he's like a twin, and he sees pictures and says, "Oh, that's me as a princess," and he sees William in here, and he's like, "Oh, those are my boys." And he described like the Balmoral Castle with the unicorns, I guess, was another thing. And he saw another picture, and he's like, "Oh, that's me as a princess." Then one day the sirens came, and I wasn't a princess anymore. He knew about a brother John, who I guess was older than Diana, but died at birth or an infant. So he knew the name of the brother, which was kind of interesting. I mean, that would be something. And he would point to the roof. As a baby, I guess he was having problems sleeping. And they asked him, or his parents asked him why. And he's like, because they come and get me. And then he points to the roof and says, they do. So I mean, his reincarnation. Yeah. So the first question is, have you done seances regarding the true crime or Princess Diana's death? And then also your thoughts on reincarnation and the part where he's pointing up to the roof. So there's a lot there.
All right.
Multiple questions there.
Well, the thing is that people can, even kids in particular, are like information sponges. So this is I wonder if this child has ever been interviewed by an actual parapsychologist, who's going to
I got you, yeah.
the scientific method to try to figure out exactly what's going on there. But also, parapsychologists basically we live in a universe of rules. There's the gravity and the other three forces of the universe. Science is the reason we can function, okay? But ghosts might be real, so how do they fit? How do ghosts fit into a universe in where science exists? How can that be true? How can we have consciousness and things like that? That's what they're trying to figure out. All right. So applying those theories to can be difficult, for believers, because you want to believe that there's a possibility this child is the reincarnation of Princess Diana. A skeptic has all sorts of logical explanations. Like the first things that come right off the top of the head is that he picked up on information. He's a what's the word I'm looking for? Precocious young kid who's very intelligent, picks up information, maybe even be an advanced reader for his age, could have read it in a book or saw a documentary on it and just absorbed that information.
Yeah, I think his dad was in the industry. I think he was in television some way, somehow.
Yeah, so there's definitely there's all sorts of explanations for where the information came from.
Sure.
Yeah.
As far as reincarnation in general, I can't dismiss the possibility at all. There's one of the ideas of consciousness survival is that the consciousness does not exist inside the brain. We are basically the physical manifestation of a extra bodied non-physical consciousness. Like a good analogy, for example, is a cable TV signal going into a TV. If you break the TV, the signal's still bleeding into the air. Yep. So maybe that's where consciousness comes from, and that's why we have ghosts and information like that. Perhaps when reincarnation is this aspect of consciousness being reborn into a physical form again, or something along those lines. So that's a popular theory. But the Occam's razor also says the more common possibility is that they just remember details or want it to be true so much. It's a lot of this stuff is unverifiable,
and a lot of that stuff will fade away too over time when they get older, right?
Yeah, energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can dissipate to a point in which it's very hard to retrieve that information back.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
cool. And then what about the true crime, the seances? Have you dove in, or maybe that's something that you might
seances,
start.
I think you should do if you seances are not evil. I've had people come up and say, I had someone complain when he saw him in marketing for seances that It's the devil's work, which is ironic since seances were invented by Christians. And it is
Do your homework,
I always
people.
laugh at when someone says something along those lines. But the seances, like if you've ever said, "Oh, Grandpa, I wish you were here right now to give me guidance," or something along those lines, you did a self-seance, basically. I'm communicating with a departed someone for the purpose of knowing information. And it's as simple as you can get. And you're just doing a little seance for yourself. And seances are very simple, but if you believe in the possibility of dark forces, they're also something that should not be done by amateurs. Okay.
Right.
So always have a mentor showing you how to do a seance. Talk to a seance authority. Try to find someone who's like done dozens and verify they've done those. Remember, whatever you're doing, whatever you're doing, when you're looking someone up, everyone who's been doing anything publicly, we all have digital records now. We live in the internet age. Don't just take it for granted from their personal bio. Look it up. See, do they have a known digital history of having done seances? Have they done that sort of thing? Are there people saying I went to this and everything was fine? Like find out if they are actually the experts they claim to be. There can be experts, there can be authorities, there can be people that have studied and read and practiced, and to the level in which they consider an expert. If you know that European explorers went to Africa, saw a rhinoceros, came back to Europe, and somehow over a period of centuries that became a unicorn, you're an expert in unicorns, and they don't exist. So, but it makes you an expert because the above average of bit of information. You might have written on it and been published. So you're an expert on that. I do consider myself an expert on the paranormal because I'm a published author.
Right.
I've done lectures and talked on that sort of thing. Does that mean I know what ghosts are? No. But I feel like I'm comfortable in my own skin talking about them and giving opinions on what they might be, and also talking about the folklore, legends, and history, and other theories that I may not necessarily endorse, but also acknowledge their existence.
Cool. So I'm asking the board if there's any questions on the people that are watching. Go ahead and.
I probably drove them away when I said you should. They said if you want to investigate people's houses, just make sure that you're doing that with the with the people experiencing that sort of thing. Make sure they know what they're doing. If you want to find out more about my paranormal stuff, I recommend, this is my conference if you're a magician.
I'm plugging your stuff for you here real quick while we wait
go to ghosttech.com. That is where all my paranormal stuff is at. You can also see my paranormal stuff on parapsychologylab.com if you want to know more about parapsychology and how to be a parapsychologist or an amateur, what we call sci-field researchers. So you don't want to put in the extra work to be a parapsychologist. You can be a sci-field researcher, which is still better than a paranormal investigator or ghost hunter. It just means that you have a knowledge of the evolution of things. Why do we use EMF detectors? Who was the first people to use those? What is the theory behind why they work? Most people don't actually know.
Well, there is the one show from England. I call it Most Knocking, but it's Most Haunted.
Yeah.
That has the parapsychiatrist on that show, or parapsychologist.
Well.
Stop your brakes, Dean. Hold on.
Yeah. So here's the question for any parapsychologist: where did you learn your information from? So in England, there is the Ghost Club and a Society for Psychical Research.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any other parapsychology organizations. I could be wrong about that. I don't live in England, but those are the ones I know about: Society for Psychical Research and the Ghost Club. Now you can get a certification from the United States with one of the other 4 organizations I mentioned previously, and still be practicing in England. And that would make you a parapsychologist technically, because there's no degrees anymore, you know. But if but the problem is, because no one cares to follow up on it and find people or anything like that, technically anyone can call themselves a parapsychologist. That doesn't mean you are one. This means you're calling yourself one.
But that's the only show that I know of that actually has one on the show. You know, they're either
you have someone on the show who calls themselves a parapsychologist.
Right.
Doesn't mean they are a parapsychologist.
Well, at least they're saying the name anyway.
Yeah.
I got.
You're pulling this site up or something? Or what?
No, I'm just thinking of a question that makes me smile, and I want to know if you don't have to give me an answer, but the question is, so I'm kind of a magician myself, self-taught. It's funny when you say, you know, this guy's a parapsychologist, and because he got that's like me calling myself a magician because I taught myself magic, right? Same token, but the question is, do you think you could fool Penn and Teller?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay. Sweet.
Isn't there a show like that?
Yeah, Penn and Teller Fool Us, right? That's the name of the show. So, without giving too much away, what would be your go-to demonstration?
Oh, he's diving for secrets.
I have a effect I did called the Demon's Cauldron, in which a flaming tendril comes out of a previously empty black iron cauldron, which is examinable.
Yeah,
and that's what I would submit to them.
That's awesome. Is there any footage online if I wanted to find a?
Not publicly, no.
Okay.
You're trying to steal his stuff?
On that one.
No, I'm just I like magic and I like watching. It's one of those things like. Vince, you may be the same way, but like I used to watch all the David Blaine's and the the Chris Angels and the specials and stuff that they had, right? But my love of magic would always have me like, in my mind, I'm doing the Penn and Teller. I'm like, okay, how did they do that? And trying to figure out what I knew from the knowledge, right? But one of the things that I noticed was that I could watch the show, see one of the demonstrations or illusions they did, and then in my sleep, I would try to figure out how they did it and then practice the next morning and see if I could get it right.
Yeah, Dean, do me a favor. All right. Put your hand up to the camera like this. So you have
no. Come on, not me.
All right. Okay. Pull it back a little bit. Like, so it's flat up. There you go. Now get it a little closer. Right there. Okay. Think of a finger.
Yeah.
Think of one of your fingers.
Uh-huh.
Are you thinking about it now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little, pull your hand back a little bit. All right. So I think you were thinking of, at first I thought you were thinking of your ring finger, but I think you might be thinking of your pinky finger. One of those two fingers. If I'm down to two fingers now, is that correct?
So you're counting these two out?
Yeah, those are out.
Okay.
So I think you thought of your pinky finger, is that right?
It was the ring finger.
Ring finger. Okay, I was close.
Yeah.
The problem with those two fingers that they're connected by a tendon. That's why you can't if you try to pull your pinky finger down, you automatically pull your ring finger down.
Yeah.
So
I thought you were going to read my palm. I know.
No. That wasn't your palm. Yeah. So that is a mentalist trick that I developed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually teach other magicians and mentalists how to do that.
I like the
normally it would take longer, but I kind of rushed it for demonstration purposes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But there was that other trick you had with the two newscasters with the travel cards, and they picked out Egypt, and they saw blue, and they swore they saw it, and then you went through it. I'm like, there's none here. It was awesome. To do it on live TV like that, that's cool as hell.
Yeah. See, I've been on television. Television doesn't bother me. The first couple of times you do it, it's like you're nervous and sweating and everything like that. But after that, it's just like, it's going to be what it is. So just move on with it. It's just another thing you're doing. So
right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so just a word of warning from us, just like television or anything, now that you've participated here on our Paranormal Pickers, we may edit this the way that we want to do it. So it may be a totally different, it may be a totally different episode when you watch on YouTube, just so you know that magic I was talking about, Dean.
If your voice changed, Vince.
Right. We got 3 words out of the entire thing. It's going to be Vince saying, "I believe ghosts." Right? Okay, well, that was straight out of the man's mouth. I don't know.
I do believe in ghosts. Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
But I want to just tell everyone. I don't. How much time do we have left?
We got about another 3 minutes. If you
Okay. Just tell everyone real quick. Go buy a Ouija board. And
right
use
behind me.
a lot. Yeah, use a lot. Use the Ouija boards all the time.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with Ouija boards. They should be standard equipment for every paranormal investigator. Everything.
What if there's that one
if you're
Ouija
against
board?
Ouija boards, that means you've watched too many TV shows and movies. And if you said you had an experience, that doesn't mean that it was the Ouija board. It just means that was an experience you had. I've had people say, I've been scratched, bitten, and burned on paranormal investigations. No Ouija board. And they'll go back to that place and do the same thing again, hoping to have the same experience. But if you say Ouija board, suddenly they're scared. Go ahead.
What if there's that one chance where that star that you were talking about before, that one little cosmic little piece of dust hits that one Ouija board, and that's the one that
then it was going to happen anyway. There's nothing you
can do about it. It's
right.
always going to happen that way. Yep, exactly.
Well, you talk about biting and scratching and stuff on that USS Constellation episode. What's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Dave, thank you.
Trader,
he got bit on his wrist, like an actual
Yep.
bite or something there when he was hearing walking above. So
Yep.
I've never been bit, scratched, or anything other than by spiders and ticks. Ticks in Gettysburg.
Yeah.
But no brown recluses yet, so thank God. We
Right,
are
thankfully
pickers,
for
though.
that. Right. We are pickers. That said, I'll give a couple more plugs for you here, Vince. Again, you can check him at Poe's Magic Conference. He's got you're all over the internet. You got that presence everywhere. You can just plug Vince Wilson into Google, and you're going to get about 75 different things.
Paranormal Magic or a movie that had Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson in it.
Right. Or you're going to do about Wedding Crashers, right? That's perfect.
Well, the funny thing too is before this show, I was sending the link to another friend of mine, Vince, and Vince is like, "What's this all about?" I go, "The show." He's like, "What show?" I was like, "We're running in 3 minutes. What's it about?" I'm like, "What the hell's going on here?" I'm like, "Oh shit, it's wrong, Vince." Oh my God.
Right, that's great.
I rushed to get home. I was like, come on.
I'll give my closing thoughts. Since we're talking about tarot and magician, I'm just going to tie this back in like I did last week. So, closing thoughts. Think of it this way. Have faith in your inner creativity. Magician advises you to give your questioning nature and free associating mind plenty of room to explore the subject at hand. And just behave as if you were an open-minded and curious scientist. Just take everything into account with that. It's not there's no bad, there's no evil, there's just energy and how you interpret it.
And there's not Teller and Houdini.
Right.
And
fair enough on there. Right. Always Vince. Dean, anything from you?
No, I think I covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we sure did. Well, if that's the case, we'll end this broadcast for everybody. I appreciate everybody at home. Vince, appreciate you. If you want to stick around for just a second while we close out.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Vince.
it. Had a good time.
Oh, hey. Wow. Oh, hey everyone, it's Dean from Paranormal Pickers. Oh, I got the preview for the next episode. Oh, yeah. Here, take a peek. Oh.